I still have the screenshot of the message in a folder on my phone, not because I wanted proof, because I wanted a reminder. The message from my daughter-in-law was only one sentence. Stay away. We're better off without you. I read it 3 times before replying. Not because I was angry, because I was surprised by how final it sounded. For years, I'd been the person they called when something broke, when a bill appeared unexpectedly, when childcare fell through, when life became more expensive than they had planned. I wasn't rich. I was retired and careful, but I helped. A lot, sometimes with money, sometimes with time, sometimes with both. So when I received that message, I waited for the explanation that never came. Instead, there was only silence. I typed 1 word. Okay. Then I put my phone down. The first few days felt strange. I kept expecting my son to call. He didn't. I expected an apology. That didn't come either. What arrived instead was something else. 5 days later, my phone buzzed. A text from my daughter-in-law. No greeting, no acknowledgement of the previous message. Just, can you send $200? It's really important. I stared at it, then I read it again. The amount was specific enough to mean it wasn't a guess. They already knew exactly how much they needed. I sat at my kitchen table for nearly 10 minutes before replying, not because I was deciding, because I was choosing my words carefully. Finally, I wrote, better off also means without my money. Then I put the phone away. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Within an hour, my phone started ringing. My son, ignored, then again, then my sister, then a cousin, then messages. Long ones, some angry, some disappointed, some pretending to be neutral while clearly taking sides. The story moving through the family was simple. I was refusing to help during an emergency. What nobody seemed interested in discussing was why the people who wanted nothing to do with me suddenly needed me so badly. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted revenge, because I was tired. For years, every disagreement had ended the same way. I would eventually pay for something, and somehow the conflict would disappear. This time, I wanted to know what happened if I didn't. A week later, I finally learned what the money was for. My son called from a different number. I answered by accident. His voice sounded exhausted, not angry, just defeated. The problem wasn't medical. It wasn't life or death. It was debt. Months earlier, they had signed a commercial lease for a small business venture. The business struggled almost immediately. Several payments had been missed. Now the property management company had begun formal proceedings. What surprised me wasn't the debt. It was what came next. My son admitted. They had assumed I would cover the shortfall if things went badly. Not because I had promised to, because I always had before. That sentence stayed with me. They had built a backup plan, and the backup plan was me. 2 days later came the moment everything changed, not emotionally, practically. A formal notice arrived from the leasing company. An attorney had become involved. Deadlines were now official. Consequences were no longer hypothetical. For the first time, family pressure stopped mattering. The issue had entered a system where feelings carried no weight. Only responsibility did. My son asked if I would attend a meeting. I almost said no, then I agreed. The conference room was small. A representative from the leasing company sat across from them. An attorney sat beside him. Numbers covered the table. Missed payments, late fees, contractual terms. The representative asked a simple question. Will a third party be assuming responsibility for this balance? Everyone looked at me. For a moment, nobody spoke. I knew exactly what they expected, the same thing that had happened every other time. I would rescue the situation. The attorney looked at me politely. Ma'am? I folded my hands. No. The room became very quiet. The attorney nodded once and made a note. That was it. No drama, no speech, no argument, just a professional acknowledgement that the people who signed the agreement were responsible for it, not me. For the first time, an authority figure had said, in effect, what I had been trying to say for years. Their obligations belonged to them, not to whoever loved them. The meeting ended quickly after that. Outside, my son stood beside me in the parking lot. Neither of us spoke immediately. Finally, he said, I think we got used to you, fixing things. I nodded. So did I. That was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. Things didn't magically improve afterward. Some relationships remained strained. My daughter-in-law never apologized directly, at least not in the way people imagine apologies, but the demands stopped, the assumptions stopped too. Months later, communication slowly returned, different this time, less dependent, more respectful, not warm, not perfect, just honest. And honestly, that was enough. The screenshot is still in my folder, not because I enjoy remembering it, because it reminds me of something I learned too late. People can mistake generosity for permanence. They can mistake availability for obligation. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for them and for yourself is allow a boundary to remain exactly where it was placed.